Are you looking to save big this holiday season? If you answered yes, then you are definitely not going to want to miss Medicine Based Beauty's Holiday Happy Hour on Thursday, December 12th from 5 to 7 p.m. Of course, you guys can look forward to some festive drinks and snacks, but better yet, they're going to be offering some insane discounts on treatment packages and gift cards. So if you guys are looking to up your beauty routine, definitely don't miss out on this incredible event. Thursday, December 12th at Medicine Based Beauty in downtown Syracuse from 5 to 7 p.m. You're not going to want to miss it. Hello, and welcome to Cultivate CNY. I am your host, Alex Canavan, and I am so excited for you guys to listen to this week's guest. He's a leader in Central New York, a veteran, and the president and CEO of MACNY, the Manufacturing Alliance of Central New York. Through MACNY, he serves approximately 330 companies with 55,000 employees, and he is also the president of the recently formed Manufacturers Alliance of New York, which is a coalition of manufacturing groups representing over 1,500 companies in 47 counties in New York State. In this episode, we talk about Micron and all of the expansion happening in Central New York, leadership, and the need for diversity in manufacturing. So without further ado, let's welcome Randy Wolken to Cultivate CNY. Randy Wolken, welcome to Cultivate CNY.
Thanks for having me come.
I'm so excited to have you here. You are our first guest in manufacturing. So before we get into all of the things in this episode, let's talk about your background.
Sure.
What led you to become the president of the Manufacturers Association of Central New York?
No, it was not a planned endeavor. Actually started out going to West Point, the military academy, downstate here, and then joined the Army as a part of my commitment. I was stationed at Fort Drum, and my wife went to medical school here. So after I left the service, went back, got my master's degree at SU in public administration, and then started out in the public sector working for Onondaga County.
Very nice. And what did you learn? I mean, I'm sure you learned a lot having been at West Point and in the military. How do you think that served your career?
It really is a great leadership school. Really helps prepare men and women to be in the military and beyond. So I really had a chance to work on both leadership skills as well as to get my education, a really hands-on experience. Got to do some really cool things like jump out of airplanes and drive tanks, which is great to do when you're 18 to 22. And I really got a lot out of the experience of working with young men and women at a very young age. And from that ended up going, like I said, deciding to leave the service. My wife was a pediatrician, wasn't great to the family to move around all the time. So I decided to leave, and we loved Central New York and settled here.
So the Manufacturers Association of Central New York serves around 330 companies and over 55,000 employees. What exactly does the association do?
So we are really the trade association for manufacturers throughout really central upstate New York. We have members in 26 different counties. Beyond that, I'm also president and CEO of the Manufacturers Alliance, which is a group of groups like ours throughout the state of New York, from Buffalo to Long Island. So in that space, we do both advocacy and workforce development services. And that serves about 180,000 individuals in the manufacturing sector. What we do is really four things. We do a ton of events. We like to joke where events are us. We'll do about 200 events this year. And that's everything from training to really networking, in-person events. So it's one of the great things about being a part of MACNY, the Manufacturers Association, is all the networking and the great people you get to meet, which I've had a chance to do for a couple decades now. On top of that, we are really the state's advocacy leader for manufacturing and the policies to help grow manufacturing and help them thrive. We also do talent development. We have some exciting programming to get individuals into manufacturing, which I'd love to talk some more about. And then we also do some direct services. Then we run a healthcare consortium, an energy consortium. So those four things occupy the time of about 36 people now.
Yeah, you guys have your hands in a lot of different camps for
We
sure.
do.
Especially if you're hosting a lot of events, which that's
We are.
that's a whole
Yeah,
world
you
in
know
and of
that. Yeah.
itself. Are you seeing right now in our region, especially in the manufacturing industry?
Well, the manufacturing space is going to just explode. I mean, the reality is we've all heard about Micron coming and in the related industries around the semiconductor space. but it goes well beyond that. Just recently, TTM announced a massive expansion. I was with the governor and many others last week about we all do beam signings now, not ribbon cuttings. So we signed a beam about that's going in that space. And that's exciting. It's 400 additional individuals above and beyond the 600 individuals they have working with them right now. So that's just one. Lotte is expanding. Many of our members in the Mohawk Valley are expanding. They include Indium, Semicon Danfoss, Wolfspeed, all semiconductor spaces, but just all kinds of manufacturing growth is happening, and that's really exciting.
Do you think that this growth is happening because of the Micron investment, almost as a way to expand and sustain what's to come?
I think it was influenced by the Micron investment. Again, it gave us extra attention, but the companies that I mentioned, they've already been here. So they want to grow here, and they want to expand here. I think that's what Micron was saying too. What a great place to make things. Great work ethic, lots of great schools, a wonderful community to live in. These are all positive things that people see when they look at Central New York.
Yeah, absolutely. We just had Katrina Tulloch on the podcast from This Is CNY, and she was talking all about that. And it really is such a wonderful place, not only to get an education, but to have a family and build a life as well.
It is. And that's really one of the reasons why my wife Denise and I settled here with our kids. They've all grown up now, and we're hoping to get them to come back, actually, like many families, because the job situation is going to be quite fantastic over the next 2 decades. I've never seen manufacturing growth of this magnitude, size, and I think longevity.
That being said, because of all this growth, there's going to be a demand for more people working in the industry. And this is, to no surprise, a pretty male-dominated industry, manufacturing. What do you think young emerging women leaders that are really open to new opportunities, what do you think they could gain from maybe diving into manufacturing?
Yeah, the whole manufacturing sector has actually been transformed. It really is a technical sector. STEM education, the acronym STEAM, because the arts are really important too from a creativity standpoint, is really where the industry is today. So these are high-tech jobs. They're not the same manual jobs. Oftentimes you're in a clean room. So these are really wonderful environments with great pay, advancements in pay, and great benefits. I mean, the average Micron worker will make somewhere around 6 figures. So this is technicians as well as engineers. But that's true across the board now. You can go right from high school, and actually the industries will train you, provide all the education you need to continue to advance in your career. So a lot of opportunities for women. We actually put some programming in place to get more women into manufacturing, which is already making an impact, but more to be done.
One of them being the Real Life Rosies. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. The Real Life Rosies is a pre-apprenticeship program. So it's 8 to 12 weeks to introduce women in a cohort model so they can be supported into the manufacturing space. During that time, they'll visit manufacturing facilities and actually get interviews with companies. And we're doing really well in that space. About 80% of the women going through the program go right to work. We think it's one of the best ways for them to be introduced and to actually be shown the way in which they can be successful in the manufacturing space. The great news is companies are very excited as well. They want to see a more diverse workplace. They want to see more women in manufacturing and more diversity in manufacturing. I think that's going to be the future, and I'm really seeing companies lean in on it.
Yeah, especially in our region. What kind of women are in these apprenticeship programs? Are they coming straight out of college? Are they still in college? Maybe just graduated high school and not really sure if they even want to go to college?
Yeah, it's really the full spectrum. We have students who are senior year of high school now in the Utica area, moving into that space. We're excited about their prospects. Many of them are also going to community college as they work. So we think that's a great way to do it. We have individuals who are doing midlife career changes. We actually have a journey worker who's finished their apprenticeship program who's 71. So there really isn't any age limit, quite frankly, to going into these high-tech sectors. So we think a wide variety of individuals, even if they've been successful in other careers should take a look at these careers.
Are you a professional woman in Central New York looking to connect with a community that values local talent? Unlock your career's potential with the CNY Women's Network online business directory. For just $9 a month, you can enjoy a premier listing that connects you with a community of engaged customers, recruiters, and executives eager to discover you. Getting started is easy. Simply click the link in the show notes to purchase your listing, and your profile will be live within 72 hours. And one more thing, as a valued listener of the Cultivate CNY podcast, you get 20% off your first month with us. Just use the code Cultivate20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first month with the CNY Women's Network online business directory when you use the code Cultivate20 at checkout. Don't miss out on the opportunity to grow your career and attract new opportunities. Join the CNY Women's Network directory today to be seen, connected, and hired. What are some of the different roles or jobs that someone could consider if they're interested in working in manufacturing?
Yeah, the exciting part is we have 24 different trades that we actually administer that are actually at the career sites where we facilitate sort of the paperwork, the development of the related instruction, because these are really like getting a degree, but while working. So about 140 credit hours are involved in an apprenticeship. So a lot of actual learning that goes with the hands-on learning. So these are for individuals who want to come right to there or really transition into it. We actually had a cohort of entirely of Ukrainian women who became new Americans, and then they're at work right now in the Mohawk Valley. So from some pretty exciting cohorts, and again, a real avenue that prepares people to be in manufacturing.
With all of the other career avenues that are available now, especially with the online space, I think it's easy to get wrapped up in things that look a little bit more fun or glamorous. And so it's things like this in the manufacturing industry that actually can be really amazing for some families.
Alex, one of the things I love most about the manufacturing space, I get to do all the tours and get to see what they do, is that they actually make physical products that really change the world and or defend the world. And I think that's what gets people excited, that they go home every day knowing they've created something that serves somebody else, that they've sold. We've got members like Stickley that makes some of the world-class chairs and other furniture that go out to the world. We have Lockheed Martin and SRC and many others in that space that make defense-related radars and keep our communities in the world safe. We've got unique products that really span the globe from both consumer to business products. And that's really a growth space. I think what people were concerned about is would these jobs, leave? And the nice thing about it is these jobs, because they're high tech and because people want to be here in Central New York, are actually growing, not leaving.
Why do you think that the manufacturing industry is still so male dominated? Do you think that it needs kind of a better PR, if you will?
I definitely think people don't understand what happens in the industry space. I mean, these are tech jobs, so many of them you don't need. It's not really brute strength or force anymore. And you can have them, like I said, into your 70s. There's not jobs that require a huge amount of physical exertion, vis-a-vis what some jobs might have, 20, 30 years ago. So you're using multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment that actually is mechanical. So that's a part of what's transition to manufacturing is what's happens now is you've got AI tools and you've got data-driven responses, and you may be loading, though it's all done with machines, loading machines, checking specifications, make sure there's high quality. It's just become a very different industry. And if they've known people in the past, these maybe were, dirty, hot places. They're not those same places for most manufacturing today. So it's a very different industry. I also think that many of these industries went to lower cost countries for decades. Those jobs are coming back here with reshoring. We learned during COVID we really can't afford to have extended supply chains. We need them here in our communities and in this country. So you have reshoring. You have these really exciting industries like biotech and semiconductor. All of these things are sort of converging together for some exciting opportunities right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely love the reshoring topic itself. So important. And I think it's almost like a homecoming for Central New York to get this Micron investment and having all these other manufacturing companies expand, because the manufacture it was our industry for so long, and then they all left and went somewhere else, and it really did take a toll on our local economy here.
It did. What people don't realize is the manufacturing space has changed throughout the country, and we were much higher than the average in the country in terms of number of manufacturing jobs. So we've settled into the national average around 9-10% of work directly in manufacturing. Also, manufacturing was vertically integrated. Today, they're not. They're buying services from other companies, not trying to make sure that everyone works for the company themselves. So actually, the spin off jobs are usually as many as 5 or 8 jobs connected to every manufacturing job. So that's what makes the investment and expansion so exciting. Is these are jobs where resources come in from outside the community and then they flow through the community. So there'll be a lot of entrepreneurial job and opportunities for people who do everything from restaurants to services around these two. And that's why it's projected that we could see, and I think it's very real, and we could see 100,000 people move here just within this community, not including Mohawk Valley.
And not only, people moving into the area, but the amount of jobs that are going to be available that, are very well-paying
Very good
jobs.
paying
It's
jobs.
it's going to change the lives and the families of so many people. It's so exciting.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing. Individuals who've thought, well, geez, I'm just going to have a low paying job. I'm not going to have a chance to advance. That's not really what manufacturing is about. Advanced skill, and investing in you. We've got companies that hire people with no degrees or associate degrees, and they can continue to learn and get the company to pay for PhDs. So it really is a high tech and advanced in nearly every space now. And that's really the future of manufacturing, actually, the future of most jobs. In fact, I think these jobs are probably more sustainable than some of the other jobs, which may be less sustainable as we go into the next, couple decades.
Yeah, as technology continues to advance
It will.
and not as many people are needed in some of these other jobs.
Yeah, in the manufacturing space, they're not letting those workers go. They're upskilling them and adding new technologies. So we're seeing people be added to these companies, just like TTM did when they, announced that they would be adding up to 400 new jobs.
Yeah, that's
It is
phenomenal.
phenomenal.
So from on the flip side for the business leaders or the people that are running these companies, what are you seeing them struggle with right now? Or maybe something that they might have been struggling with for the past couple of years?
Well, they are struggling to find talent, and we have a career and talent platform at MACNY.org. People should go look. I was just looking today. Every week we look at the results, and we've had over 31,000 individuals put resumes into our go to the site over its operation in the last 4 or 5 years. Um, we've actually helped close to 2,000 individuals get jobs. So literally, there are hundreds, and there'll soon be thousands of job openings, and with career pathways that are available to all kinds of individuals, in a real focus, as we've talked about earlier, on diversifying the workplace.
My mother's in a career transition right now, and she ended up leaving the nonprofit world to work in a position that's commission based,
Mhm.
and I'm very worried about her.
Sure.
Um, and she's so talented and she's so smart, but she didn't have the opportunity to go to college. She had to take care of her siblings
Sure.
and support the family. But she worked in a corporate setting before she was a nonprofit, and she worked her way up the corporate ladder, fighting tooth and nail to make her way because it was during a time where you could not obtain these positions without that piece of paper. But to your point, things are changing. People are realizing that a college degree doesn't signify work ethic
No,
or
doesn't.
capability. So to be able to start somewhere, but also be working for an organization that believes in you and is willing to make that investment into you, into the advancement of your career, is something that I feel like is a new thing because for so long, you have people with master's degrees also that can't get great work either. So
So true, and I think that's one of the big shifts. People sort of expected that unless you had a degree, you weren't gonna get, good paying jobs. This isn't the case today, and I think that's what I like most about it. Everyone can have an opportunity if they wanna work hard, and be given opportunities. Also, our Real Life Rosies program has wraparound services, so childcare and transportation, these are things that help individuals get started in those positions until they start to receive paychecks, and then they can we'll work with them as well. But then they'll have more resources to be able to take care of their kids and also to get to work and the other things that are needed. The Real Life Rosie's program has a stipend so people actually get paid while they're in learning and training, which really helps people because many people can't afford not to work when they have families and have their own needs. So that pre-apprenticeship program, which now is expanding and growing, really feeds our apprenticeship programs. Right now, we have over 1,000 apprentices under program management statewide. We see that number doubling, tripling, and many more. Um, and just really a need that will continue to grow for decades. And just to answer some of the skeptics, not only is Micron coming here, it's going to happen fast, and it will all start next year. When people see the cranes and the construction, I think it'll become more real than ever. And I remind people, no one moves a fab. Uh, a chip fab is something that stays where it's at because it's a $20 billion investment. So no one moves a fab, unlike other organizations may decide. You sell it, somebody else operates it, but it's a permanent investment. So to think we would have the largest at the time announced private sector investment in U.S. history, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And to be a Syracuse native is just, it's such an exciting thing for our region. Let's talk a little bit about
Sure.
leadership. You mentioned that you think West Point really did prepare you to be a great leader. What are some of the characteristics that you think makes up a great leader?
I think the key is really you have to care deeply about people. People don't follow individuals who don't care for them. So you have to invest in the people you're with. You have to go above and beyond. If the coffee needs to be made, you make it. If tables need to be moved, you do it. In part because you're demonstrating, as they do, that the work that we do matters. I think people also want to know that what they're doing has real meaning. And I think that's leaders have to work hard to make sure people understand that what they're doing makes a difference. People of all ages actually want meaningful work. Um, and that's something I think is true of the work I'm doing. I'm really excited about doing it. I think passion and excitement, and then maybe not a word that's often used, a fair amount of humility, a realization you don't really know all the answers. You really want to have people working with you that really have more answers than you do. I always say my job is to hire people that are smarter than me at the things that they do. And my job is to help them be successful. So I've really been blessed with this opportunity to do it for 23 years now. And I still enjoy going to work every day. There's nothing quite like getting factory tour. I'll be honest, it's one of my favorite things to do is walk around these factories and see individuals who are so proud of what they make and so excited about what they can do for both the community, their families, and their customers. That's really rewarding. And I think that's for me what leadership has to be. It has to be service to others, and it really should accomplish something of meaning.
If there's anything I've learned over the past year, hiring a few people to work with me, it's that being a leader is really hard.
Yes.
It's one thing to start a business and keep track of yourself and keep the needle going, but it's a whole other ball game to be able to show up prepared enough to not only lead yourself but to lead others. How do you show up every day being a strong leader that people trust?
Well, for me, you have to start by getting yourself together in the morning. I mean, I that's my meditation or prayer time. That's my preparation time. It's the time that I take a moment so I can get myself ready for whatever's coming. And then you learn real quick as a leader, you have your plan, and then something happens and you have to adjust. And I think being able to adjust and doing so calmly and doing it with intention can really make a difference to those who, for that moment, may feel like the world's coming apart for them, or this project that I'm working on is not working, or something else has happened maybe in their personal life. So I think being empathetic and realizing that people have lives that sometimes don't go perfectly, like mine doesn't either. We need to be sympathetic, empathetic, and that's where we roll up our sleeves and say, "Hey, who else can help?" And I think that's the kind of environment we all want to work in, is a place where people say, "I'll do it. I'll help so and so to accomplish it." And there are many young women and young family members at MACNY. So the reality is, they have to take care of their kids too. There are times where there is a delay. Now we're fortunate; we don't run a manufacturing facility, so we don't have the same kind of time constraints or space constraints. So we can run a hybrid office, which has been really good for us. But the reality is you've got to find that sweet spot where people can accomplish their goals as well as the goals of the company. That's right. That's the right mixer. Are you getting the outcomes you need to be successful? And are the individuals feeling fulfilled?
What are you seeing as a business leader in maybe say in my generation? Are there things people in my generation that want to be leaders should be more aware of or should know, or maybe that you wish we did a little bit differently?
I think people are people. And generally speaking, I've got to be aware of what's going on. Alex, if you worked with me, what's going on in your life, and I have to be willing to hear all that, and I think that's really going to be critical. And it's true, generations obviously, maybe use slightly different language, and they maybe have had different, and generally have had different world experiences. And I think that's what makes a wonderful workspace when you can take that in and let that be a part of the culture. And that's probably the one thing that is probably, I think it's actually more important than good strategy or even the best products is, do you have a great work culture? Do people come to work dedicated to getting the job done, but also can smile, laugh at themselves when they need to, not at others, but in a really a joyful way. I think those are the things that reduce stress and opportunity. But yeah, I think the generations, I'm now leading individuals who are my kids' age. But it's good to have kids to know what's transpiring in that space. So I actually think that today's workplace can be that kind, caring place, but it really does take leadership. And in fact, part of the leadership is saying, well, we're just not going to do that kind of behavior here related to the way in which we treat people. Let's treat people with the deepest level of respect.
And I feel as though not only are you guys helping support people in manufacturing in their careers, but you're also really creating a space for people to become leaders, especially with the different programs you guys have. I know you mentioned you host over 200 events or just around 200 events. Do you guys provide maybe cohorts or development programs for people that might want to get into manufacturing?
So we're a trade association. So the things that we do generally around our events are for members. But if your company is a member of MACNY, then anyone in that organization can participate. So we do things with professionals, like we have plant engineers and plant managers that go on tours together and learn from each other. What's great about the manufacturing sector, nearly everyone is not in direct competition. They really can learn from each other. So they learn about lean or leadership. We do a lot of leadership training at MACNY for the purposes that we've already talked about. One of our big sellers is supervisory leadership. So often we promote people to be supervisors that we don't give them the skills or understanding. Like, how do you be successful as a supervisor? You did the work, but now you got to supervise other people doing it. That's a different endeavor. So we are this huge circling, but I think very caring network of people. Uh, you've heard of 6 degrees of separation. We probably can connect just about anybody in this community with somebody else. But that's pretty exciting to be able to do. So oftentimes we're just referring people like, oh no, we don't have the solution, but so-and-so does, or this company does that work. So that really makes us a community contributor. And we as an organization do reach out to a lot of other nonprofits because we know that they're the heart of sort of how to foster a healthier, a more caring community too. And we are a nonprofit as well. We're a C6 as well as a C3, so that we can actually do community work as well. And that makes us a really good intermediary between businesses who are our members, and we have some nonprofits who are members too, and we work directly with governments too. So oftentimes, we're working directly with the U.S. Department of Labor. Now we have a major contract with them, and the New York State Department of Labor or Empire State Development. So it's kind of an interesting place to be, is in the middle of relationships, referring, and sometimes just translating. Like, this is what this means. If you're hearing this from the New York State Department of Labor, which we're a good partner with on the apprenticeship side in particular. So I'm really excited about what we're able to do from a community standpoint. And of course, these are good paying jobs.
Being in your position, it must be a really interesting perspective to have because you are the in between people in manufacturing, these leaders in the alliance, and then, workforce development, economic development. and kind of acting as an ambassador for these thousands of people that you're serving.
Yeah, I really enjoy the advocacy component too when we go to Albany or do it here locally, just talking about the policies that are needed to be strong and successful. And they are community as well as manufacturing based. And I think that's what makes it interesting. I've had the same job title for over 20 years, but it's not the same job. And it continues to evolve and grow. And obviously there's technologies that I didn't start using that we use now. So it's never a dull moment. And I think it's one of the things that we as an organization now are growing quite significantly, which is pretty exciting. About 3 years ago, we were 15 people. Now we're over 36. We'll probably add another 5 to 10 within the next 18 months, just because of the growth in the workforce space. Um, because there's so many, literally thousands of individuals will be needed for these companies to be successful. So I'm really excited about that. And I know we have a lot of new team members, many of them younger, and they relate well to the young workforce and also people coming out of schools. I think that's one of the things I get the most excitement of, just watching young leaders. Because I know leaders that I respected, they invested in me. They pulled me aside and said, "Randy, why are you doing that? You're better than that, or you can do something much better than what you've been doing in that moment." And so it's always got to be a learning journey. And I think the other thing I have that's unique is I've been in multiple sectors already. I was in the governmental sector in the U.S. Army. I then went to Onondaga County, spent about 6.5 years there. Then I actually drove by where I used to work the Samaritan Center on the way here. I did that for 3.5 years, which is a soup kitchen. And I did that during a difficult time for them. And then I was asked to apply for this job. And, somebody, mentored me and helped me be successful in this job. So I like to say I'm on my fourth career. And I think that's going to be typical of many people. They're going to have multiple careers. And it's all going to be about transferable skills. So I can look at my time in government. I can look at my time, in the nonprofit space. Obviously, I work with manufacturers all the time. That's kind of a unique view, and our team members get a chance to see that. And we're always looking for new community relationships and partnerships. So when you say, "Would you like to do the podcast?" Sure, I'd love to come tell people about what we do, and hopefully people can get really excited about our community.
For sure. I think this episode is definitely going to get people excited. When you go to Albany, what are some of the things that you're pushing for, or should I say, are you lobbying at all? Is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
it's a combination of lobbying and advocacy. Some are really around policy, some are around very specific things to manufacturing. Others are more general. Like I'm a big advocate for childcare, realizing that if we're going to have a more diverse workplace, we need to have more affordable and available childcare. In fact, the governor and I talked about that years ago. That we need more childcare, and some of them are going to be on-site childcare, like Micron's committed to having childcare near its fabrication facility. Others will have to do it in a community setting. So I've joined Early Childhood Alliance. I've been involved in that, been involved with United Way. So I think we're going to have to do it together. This growth is going to be something so new. This community hasn't experienced it since the Erie Canal, so none of us have actually experienced a growth of this size and scope. So we're going to really have to do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. Heavy on the accessible childcare. I was just talking to someone last week, and they told me about this idea, almost like how people run beauty salons and renting booths. And she's like, wouldn't it be nice if there was just a space for childcare workers to just rent a space out of, and they could just have their own clients, which would be children. I'm like, huh, that's interesting, because obviously the big issue with child care right now is the cost of everything. So there's been a lot of people exiting the business just because it's so expensive to run.
Yeah, COVID took really hurt the whole childcare space, as well as all of education. It really saw an impact because of COVID. We saw a decline in the number of spots available and so forth. But you're right, we're going to have to get more innovative but still having proper regulations, requirements. We're talking about children here, so obviously those things need to be in place. But we're going to have to get more innovative and try new things. And I think it's going to take community investment, governmental investment, to help move the ball to get there. Because if we're going to have thousands of new families plus existing families, and they're going to be able to take advantage of these great opportunities, they're going to have childcare or transportation or some other barrier that's really prevented them. I think we can remove the educational requirement spaces through our pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship program and other learning stackable certifications. So I think that can help be dealt with. But these other barriers, which we've seen amongst the women in real life Rosies, um, is um, is really important. One of the things that's cool about real life Rosies is actually Rosie the Riveter started actually in New York City in Brooklyn. In fact, one of our partners is the Brooklyn Chamber. So we're literally going to be running a Real Life Rosies program out of the Navy shipyard, which was actually the home of Rosie the Riveter back in World War II.
Wow, that's really great, and the perfect name, of course. Great branding.
Yeah, and it really people can identify with the need for supports and helps and introductions and the graduation ceremonies are pretty special. You know, people bring their families, they bring their kids, and you can see it in their faces, and you can hear it in the way they talk about what a life-changing experience these kinds of opportunities can provide to them. So that really, gets our team really excited, you know, um, and we should be.
What do you wish people knew more about the manufacturing industry?
Just how clean and forward thinking it has become, um, and how different it is because of the investment of technology. I mean, just look at our lives, how much they've changed with all the technology that we brought into them. Imagine that, 5 or 10-fold in the manufacturing space. I mean, I can show you today throughout our communities, manufacturing space, where self-driving vehicles, where parts are delivered to the space by a robot. People work next to robots or cobots. They working next to multi-million-dollar pieces of machinery that their primary job is data collection and analytics and quality achievement. So just how much things have changed, um, and that really makes them great jobs. And I think that's what we need to do: fight against this perception of what they used to be jobs, and they were really important jobs back then. They were hard jobs back then. We wouldn't have been able to build our country without them. But because of technology and because we live in the 21st century, they are different.
I think there needs to be better PR around it, if you will, just much more education. And like the first thing that you said is just how clean it is. I think when you say that, women will be a lot more in favorable of it because when you think manufacturing, you think big men in a factory with like grease on their hands, right? But that's not at all what it is now.
Yeah. So for those who like to get their hands dirty, we have those jobs. But even then, there is a cleaner environment, and obviously over time has become so much more safer too. There's so many safety requirements, and those are really good things. But they also can work in a clean room where they literally will operate machineries with joysticks, and that's so you have really within the manufacturing sector and those support services, all kinds of jobs, from accountants to lawyers, to all kinds of hands-on workers like welders and CNC operators. Um, so there really isn't a job opportunity out there that isn't available for people. And we also are promoting the trades specifically to construction. These new facilities need to be built. Our roads are being improved as we speak. So a wide variety of labor is available from those who want to be outside most of the time to those who want to be inside. So we work really closely with the trade unions as well. And we think individuals that have maybe a challenging job, maybe a more physical job, and they can do it in their 20s and 30s, maybe they'll need to transition to less physical work that's in the manufacturing sector today. So we can build an entire community. We know that you know, only about 35% of people will go off and get a bachelor's degree today. Well, what about the 65% that don't have a bachelor's? And how do we give them entrance to a way of life that really we're all entitled to, I think. So that's why I'm excited because I don't think we have to wait so that everybody goes to college. Nothing wrong with going to college. I went to college. But having said that, it's not the only path. And we do need to kind of break this myth that the only way you're going to get ahead is if you have a degree. I don't think that's true, and certainly not the case for the 21st century. You can have great jobs. One of my favorite stories is at the old Bristol-Myers Squibb, now called Lotte, and they're growing, expanding, adding hundreds of jobs. I remember the CEO was on our board of directors, and his son, who was an engineer, came up to him and said, "Hey, Dad, how come the person running my manufacturing line is making more money than me?" And he said, "Well, son, it's because he's worth more than you." He provides a service that we need to keep the production going for at the time, life-saving medical um, treatments, which is what they're doing now. Is the biologics going on at Lotte, where there's just mind-boggling what they can do now for the human body. And that is, by the way, if people want to see a diverse space and workplace, you'll see it over there. And that runs from PhDs down to technicians. And that really is what more and more manufacturing looks like. Highly educated all the way down to those who have tremendous amount of skills, but really have done it hands-on.
Yeah, actually, just last week we hosted a networking event and we got a newcomer that just moved from all the way from California to come and work at Lotte.
Sure.
She was fabulous.
Yeah, they're coming from all over the world to be here. This is going to become a more diverse community just because of the attractors that we'll see from some of these industries.
Does MACNY provide a space where people can go online and look at available jobs, or is it just for members?
No, it's open to anybody. So you can go to, we have a career and talent platform on our macny.org website. You can find it on our website, enter your information. Like I said, we've had over 31,000 individuals place their information over the course of the whole platform. That will go out to members and beyond members. They're part of, as you probably know, a software scraping that takes place. So if you get your resume out there and your job qualifications out there, you can be picked up by all kinds of companies. And our network also goes beyond Central New York. And we really, as I mentioned, we are in 26 different counties. So a lot of companies that you would aware of. I mean, Kodak works with us, and Global Foundries works with us, and so we just have this great network of, I think, really high achieving companies who really are looking for the talent, and that wasn't the case 5 or 10 years ago, where we didn't see a huge amount of job openings. That really has changed people's mindset too. That we really need to get out there and tell our story.
Absolutely. Well, is there anything that you're looking forward to in 2025, either with the organization you work with or others in the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, I think 2025 will be a year for, I'll call it, an awakening for Central New Yorkers when they start to see the actual Micron facility start to be built. And then you're going to also see the supply network announcing that they're coming here. And of course, you're going to see existing companies continue to make announcements like TTM just made, where they're going to grow. Just to give you a sort of a benchmark on how much growth we're going to see, and we're going to start to see a lot of it in the coming year. In 2019, we had about $500 million in capital investments, about 25% manufacturing. As of this spring, we had $9 billion in investments, 75% manufacturing. That's before Micron. So Micron's going to add their billions to the billions that are already a plan to be done here. So there's never, I don't believe, ever been a more exciting time to be in all kinds of trades and opportunities that's going to go on here. And I really look forward to it. It's going to be a little bit of whirlwind. It's going to be a little chaotic at times. I think we'll accept that as for the growth, but I know I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, growing pains are inevitable.
Yes, inevitable.
What do you think business owners or business leaders can do to prepare for this new boom that's approaching?
Yeah, I would start hiring my talent now. If you have the ability to hire talent, start hiring, because as these new companies come here, they're going to also attempt to hire, and they're going to bring new people in. But then there'll be trailing spouses, and there'll be family members who will also be looking for jobs. So I always now's a good time to tell your family members who want to move back to this great place we call Central New York. It's a good time to start thinking about it. So I think now is the time to prepare yourself. The other is, I think we're going to have to, continue to be a welcoming community. New people will want to move here. They're going to want new friends and new opportunities. They're going to learn about the schools or the communities that we live in. We'll tell them about the Finger Lakes, the things we like to do that are not work related. So it's a good time to build new friends and new opportunities for all of us, which will, I think, require us to probably do some things very differently than we used to. And then that's a good thing too. So refresh how we lead, refresh how we serve, refresh how we welcome people. One of the things that Micron said as they were coming, I got to know many of the executives over that period, is just what a great community they were moving into. They really saw it, as a place that would be welcoming, a good place for them to grow, because they're going to do a massive amount of production here. And just so everyone knows, they're actually building a prototype now in Boise. that will be a small version of what we're going to have. So they're getting ready for it. And literally, there'll be thousands of both technical workers in engineering and advanced degrees involved in that entire industry. The numbers are a little bit mind-boggling for most of us, but I do believe we'll be successful.
Yeah, I think if anything, what our native Syracuseans are going to have to do is accept change and get on board, right? I think there's a population of people in this city that doesn't love change. We don't, and there's it's like that in every city, right? Not everybody loves to see change, but there's definitely change coming. It's already happening, and it's definitely going to change our families and in our lives. So
I do remind everyone that, we always like change. We just want someone else to do it. I think we all have to be open to that change, just like you said, Alex. It can't just be someone else has to change. It has to be us. And I think that's really the heart of becoming a leader for the moment is you can't be the same person that you were. I'm certainly not the same person I was when I started this journey. My sort of look on the world is you have to be a present future leader. You have to live in the present, but be creating the future. And if you're doing that, then I think anyone can be successful. Not that it won't be hard. Most of life is hard, and it's one of the reasons why I think resilience is critical. But we really do have to create the future we want.
yeah, that's great. I love that. Well, Randy, I think that's all we have for today, but I would love to sit down with you maybe this time next year and talk about all of the things that you've seen.
Sure, love to do it. Really appreciate the invitation and enjoy doing it.
Thank you. All right, guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cultivate CNY. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you left us a review and make sure you're subscribed to the show. Speaking of the show, if you know anyone or if you are interested in being our next guest on Cultivate CNY, be sure to submit us an application. You can just click the link in the show notes. And if you're a business owner that's interested in getting in front of our audience, you can go ahead and email us at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more about sponsorship and advertising opportunities. All right, that's it for now. I'll catch you guys next Monday.